It's Lil Baby.
Welcome to episode 12 of Conversations with Chai. Today, I have with me a man with some of the nicest curls, the founder of Electric Desi. I have the one and only DJ.Amsal.
Hey, what's up?
Bro, I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, man.
Yo, you are, I don't even know where to start with you because, all right, let's start here. Yo, you just did the first Electric Desi a month ago, and it was at a historic New York City location. You did Avant-Gardner.
Yeah.
Dude, how did that feel?
Dude, insane. It's been a dream of mine for 5-6 years now. So finally seeing it happen, especially at Avant-Gardner and selling out and stuff, it was surreal. One of the greatest experiences.
Yo, I was talking to Punky about it. I was like, yo, as a DJ, it's so fly that y'all, instead of waiting for somebody to be like, yo, come perform at Avant-Gardner, right? Y'all just made it happen, right? Because bro, that's probably as a DJ, a lifelong, yo, I want to go play there, right? And you would have had to wait your turn behind all these other mainstream whatever artists, right? But you were yeah, nah, I could do this, right?
Yeah.
And you went out and built the platform. Talk about it. Yo, so you were telling me off mic that you had done this before, right? What's kind of the idea inception? What was your thinking going into it?
Yeah, man. So I told you earlier, I did this in LA as well, about 8 months to a year ago.
Okay.
And that was pretty much half the capacity of what we just did.
Yeah.
But basically what my goal is Electric Desi. It kind of stems from EDM music combined with Desi music.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge EDM head. That's been my music choice for 10 plus years now. And I feel the Desi community doesn't really listen to EDM. I feel it's way more on the come up now. But my dream has been for 5-6 years plus now, right? And a lot of people haven't really listened to EDM music, and my dream, because I make mixes and mashups online.
Yeah.
And I was like it might be pretty dope if I can just combine EDM music with it, because I already do it with normal music. So I just wanted to introduce the Desi crowd to EDM music and how good it really is versus just the stereotypical beeps and bops.
Yo, I think that's so fire, and I think you, Kahani, all of y'all are proving that it is a real thing, right? That it is there is a huge market for it purely based off of the fact that yo, you doing it.
Yeah, 100%, man. It, and you spoke of this off camera too, where it was the Desi scene right now is just kind of popping off, right? And especially with music, especially with arts, creatives, everything creative right now is just popping off. And shout out Kahani, he got it popping, No Nuzzer, all these people that I have been looking up to, and that really helped the creative space, diversely expand with Desi music combined with Afro, EDM, house, all that stuff. It's just awesome, the way everything's growing right now.
No, it's so awesome to see our people really build out. Yo, 5-10 years ago there was no way that Indo could exist.
Yeah.
Right? Or an Electric Desi could exist, right? It just wouldn't be possible, right? We didn't have the audience for it. We didn't have the people or infrastructure for it. And I think that's one of the flyest parts of what y'all are doing. Y'all are building out this infrastructure. So hey, we can create an ecosystem behind it, right? Because an Indo exists, right? More can exist, right? What is that relationship, or how do you kind of look at that scene, right? Because now there's a few, right? There's no, you said, No Nuzzer, there's Indo, there's Electric Desi, right? How are you kind of looking at that, navigating that? What is that relationship like?
Yeah, for sure. I've been to both of them and other Desi events, and I loved every single event. The way I'm looking at it is I don't see anything from a competition standpoint or anything like that. I'm just kind of doing my thing, they're doing their thing, and I'm totally supporting them. I want to go to their events, and I love their music that they post online, and I'm friends with pretty much everybody in both parties and other parties as well.
Yeah, that got me super upset. I think when the first Electric Desi in New York was happening, right, I saw a lot of people try to pin the 2 or 3 against each other, and it really bothered me because I was yo, they don't have to be against each other, right? There's enough of a market for everybody to do it, right? Because listen, Indo sold out, you sold out, right? It's happening, right? So I didn't when I don't know if that's a brown thing that we do, right? Where we feel the need to maybe it's just a human thing that we do, where we feel the need to pin people or pin programs that are against each other. Like I see it a lot in like the podcasting space too, a little bit, right? Like people immediately compare or contrast like my platform with like somebody else's, right? And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like we can just both exist and flourish, right? Like we're not eating at the same like we're not the only movies in town and we're not playing at the same night, right?
Yeah.
Like we can both exist, right? And we can both flourish in that. Do you like from seeing an Indo or seeing an Electric Desi, like do you feel like your product has like I guess like with you were kind of talking about it with like the mashups, right? Like do you feel like that is like a differentiator in the sense of like what market we're trying to touch?
Yeah, for sure. I think the music I play is also different than like what a lot of people play. Especially because like, have you heard of like the genre called like dubstep?
Yes.
So like, I don't think anybody's ever combined like that with Indian or Desi music, right?
Yeah.
And like at Electric Desi, I'll play dubstep with Desi music as well, which I feel like I don't know if it's like if anybody has the balls to do it or if anybody just doesn't know how to do it. Like I will do it.
How long have you been DJing? Because you're like nice. Like that, like you're like nice for real, right? Like I was listening to which mashup was it? It was the What Jhumka mashup and then the Batamiz mashup. It's not the same mashup, right? There's two different ones. I'm pretty sure.
It's what Jhumka?
What Jhumka with Batamiz, right? Yeah, bro. I was like listening to this. I was like, yo, this is crazy, right? How long have you been DJing?
I started off live DJing.
Okay.
So I've been live DJing for about 9 to 10 years.
Okay.
And then I started making mixes like about like 5-6 years ago. And then have you heard of the DDN circuit?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I was on a team in college, and then like we had a DJ, and I was like I am a DJ, right? But I'm a live DJ. I was like, let me just try also making mixes. So I think like sophomore year or freshman year of college, I started just making mixes. And then it started happening for dance teams and stuff, and then I just started getting better.
Yeah.
And then TikTok just started blowing off, and then
talk about that. Like, I don't think I saw the beginning of your like ascension to that, right? Like by the time I had like seen you, discovered you, like you were already like a thing, right? Yeah. So like, talk about it. Like, were you making like South Asian mixes for a while, or did you like hit one? Like, do you remember that like moment or ascension?
Yeah, bro. Great question. So everything just happened really quickly. So like I said, I was making mixes, right? And I was making it for the DDN circuit, and like the DDN circuit's like a big thing for like the people that are in it.
No, it's huge. Though untalked about, the DDN circuit be like churning out creators, talent, right? In terms of DJs, dancers, like even like the network, right? Like a lot of y'all know each other because of that circuit, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize how big of a deal it was because like on the East Coast, like Rutgers wasn't that big in that circuit. But when I went to Ohio and saw those boys, bro, they're like walking celebrities, right?
Yeah.
Like I would tell my sister, I'd be like, oh, like I know XYZ person, right? And she's like, wait, you're friends with that person? I was like, how do you even know who that is? He's like, bro, he's like the lead dancer of like, I think it's Legacy in Ohio State, right? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, these guys are like not local celebrities. They're like people like know. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead. You were saying the ascension of that.
Yeah. So like it's a big deal, but it's like it's still very like, you know, kept to itself, especially just in like college and stuff. And so like basically what happened is like right after that, like COVID hit, right? And everything shut down. And so like it's ironic because like a lot of people like had like a miserable couple years, right? Like a lot of people lost jobs, stuff like this. I had the best years of my life because that's when TikTok started going crazy. And I just started posting the mixes I post for like dance teams and stuff online. And then like after a couple of months, like it just started, like one of my mixes blew up.
Which mix was it?
I think the first one I remember blowing up the most was my Bust It Saki mix.
Okay.
So Bust It was like a huge trend.
Yeah.
So Saki, and then like you said, like a lot of non-Desis also use that audio, and there was like 400,000 like videos made to it, and like it just blew up. And then from that, everything just started snowballing.
You should, but like, yo, like I know you're saying like, oh, it keeps like, I want people to like really understand like what that means, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't just catch one, he like caught one and then kept going, right? Like that's the difference between Amsal and like a lot of y'all. Anybody could catch one. I had this tweet the other day, right, where I was like, yo, like stop chasing like virality, right? Because any dumb like, bro, I have something that hit like 60,000. That don't mean shit. Like realistically, because the most impressive thing or the more impressive thing that you've done is consistently hit them out to the park, right? Because nobody gives a fuck if you hit one out, right? Like, but the fact that you're consistently hitting these mixes out of the park, like that's why you're in the spot that like you're in, right? Like that's why you're able to have the platform or the audience that you do have now, right?
100%.
So talk about that, like as it's happening, right? Like how, like what is your thought process going into that? Because I've always wondered, right? Like you catch one, right? It's big, right?
Yeah.
So like the feeling of like, yo, I gotta go get this, like that has to kick in a little bit, right?
Yeah, dude, it's tricky because you catch one big, right? And then you get this high, and then like you post a couple more, and then they don't hit as hard, and then you're like, what the hell happened, you know? So it was a interesting journey because I did have like a couple big ones, and then I would be like, yo, nothing's hitting anymore, and then this is like all I had at the moment because it was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, then I would get like sad, and then I would chase that high. But then I think like till this day, like what you got to learn is like you said, consistency. Like I've been doing this for so long, and like I kind of figured out the formula for myself. But I was one of I think one of the first few to start making mixes, but I think I'm still like one of the last ones to remain doing it. And that's all because like consistency and like you don't chase that high anymore. You chase like the act of doing what you're doing, the process of it.
That is, I think, like the most important thing, right? Like, is when the high disappears, will you still show up, right? Because like I think what you're talking about is like that sophomore slump that everybody kind of hit, right? Because once you hit your big one, right?
Yeah.
You're just not. It's really impressive when you keep hitting them, right?
Yeah.
But like when you hit a big one, most likely the next ones are probably going to fall a little short, right? And I think that's where you see most people quit.
Yeah.
Or most people just take their foot off the gas because they're like, you know what? Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I am just, a one-hit wonder, right? Or a one viral hit wonder. And then they can't keep continuously following up. But being in love with the process, right? You will get another hit, right? Because you're consistently working on your craft, right? And then that output is shown, right? Because of like, hey, the work that I'm putting in when nobody is listening, right? Do you think that like now, how are you kind of like navigating that, right? Because now you have like a real product in Electric Desi, right? So how are you treating like the audience, right? Is it still in like, yo, I got to grow this mode? How are you like looking at your audience?
Yeah, man. Since I've been doing this for so long, like making mixes, I feel like I'm in this like transition part of my life right now where I'm transitioning from just being the guy that makes mixes to the guy that hosts events. And the events I'm hosting is very different than the mixes I make because I make very like what Jumka Battamizdo, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to play that Electric Desi. I'm going to play like what Jumka mixed with house or Battamizdo mixed with house or like dubstep or whatever. So I'm like transitioning to this part where like I'm entering a new phase in my music career. And I'm still doing the mixes, but I feel like, like as your passions, like, because things change, your passions change and stuff. And like, I still love making mixes, but because my focus is so much more on hosting events, I'm trying to like kind of still navigate both sides. And I think I'm still learning in the process too of how to keep that one side, the DJ.Amsal side, still going for my fans and people that like to listen to my music. And then the other side, which is my passion of EDM and hosting events.
I think that's like a tough thing to balance the doing what you, because again, like we talked about it, right? Like you don't want to be just pigeonholed into like, hey, I'm just the mix guy.
Yeah.
Right? Because like that's not like, again, like I think like a lot of us, like when we catch like the thing, we're just like, oh, let's just keep doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
But bro, like you're like a human, you have like different wants, different desires, right? And it may be different than the current iteration of what you are, right? Like I think a lot of us get like stuck in like, okay, like, hey, I hit this market and then like, oh, like this is it. But I'm glad to hear you say that because like that's I think what we need, right? Like people who are like not content with like, hey, I've cornered this like small market, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, keep that shit going, right? Like when you talk to other creators, right, in the sense of like an Ani and Ashna, right, and what they're doing, they're like, yo, like it's cool that like, hey, we're popping in the South Asian space, but let's just be South Asians that are popping. Not, hey, I'm popping in the South Asian space. Like I'm just a poppin' South Asian, right, in any space. And I think I'm glad to hear like you say that, right? Like, I think anybody who comes up here, like I always like notice that, like that they do have that, like, hey, like I want to take this like a little bit further, right? Because that's probably what drove you to even this point that you're at like right now, right? Which is only scratching the surface of like probably like what you're envisioning in terms of like, hey, like what does this like long-term outlook look like? Are you you're like DJing full-time now, right?
Yeah. I DJ weddings full-time.
Nice.
So I've been full-time DJing for 3 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are people like hitting you because they're like, hey, I want DJ.Amsal to DJ my wedding? Or
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's how it started.
Oh, really? Okay.
So like I told you, I've been in Dallas for years. And then basically, you know how Dallas is with the conservative stuff.
Yeah.
COVID wasn't even a thing there.
Yeah.
So like a couple months after COVID happened, I started getting calls for like DJing weddings, and I'm like, bro, like there's still stuff going on, but yeah, like so my TikTok started popping off, and I started getting calls for weddings and stuff. And I was like, yo, like that was actually my initial goal, to be full time weddings and stuff, and
Mhm.
like I got there, which I am. So I've been doing full time weddings for 3 years now. And then after you do that for a little bit, you know, it's like, okay, like what else can I do now? Because you know it's good money, and like it is my full time income source. So like I'm definitely blessed and honored.
Yeah.
But it's like again, like what can I do with my passion and how can I expand it? And then I was like, all right, weddings are still here, and then I can also do these events, and I can also do mixes and all that stuff. So
Yo, I think that's so again, right? Like back to like pushing it a little bit further, right? Like you know how many like great DJs I know that are now just straight up just wedding DJs.
Mhm.
Like not that there's anything wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's fine, right? But like the fact is like you are a wedding DJ, like that is like capped out, right? But the fact that like, hey, I have that,
Mhm.
and that's good, right? Like you're always gonna have that, right? But like, yo, what else can I do with like me, like DJ.Amsal, as like, hey, so I'm not just the guy who's playing playing a wedding, right? Like, yo, like I have creative pursuits, right? I have creative passions that I want to like actually capture. How are you like balancing the two though, right? Or the three basically now
Yeah.
events?
I don't even know at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to do so the thing with weddings is like you only do them on the weekends, right? So I have the weekdays free, but I used to do like 3 to 4 weddings a month, so pretty much one every weekend. And like I'm 26, so I still have like, you know, the social life, my friends going out, like making trips to Mexico and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So I do 4 weddings a month, and then I'd start realizing like, yo, like I have no free time to do anything I want to do.
Yeah.
And like mentally, like that was just so draining. Like all my friends would do all this fun stuff without me. So kind of what I figured out now is I only do 2 weddings a month. So like 2 weekends. So I have 2 weekends free, and then I also have my weekdays free.
Mhm.
And the weekdays are for like marketing, mixes, all that stuff. And so with my 2 weekends free, I can either throw another Electric Desi event, or you know, I have time for my friends now and family. So I have my 2 weddings booked, and then everything else is just like I'll fill in the gaps.
Oh, nice.
I'm
Yeah.
a very live by day kind of guy. So
Yeah. Yo, I'm kind of curious. Like, what does your music consumption look like?
my music consumption.
Yeah. Like, how are you intaking like music, right? Because like
Yeah.
but you're like a DJ. Like, you have
Yeah.
to be like in touch with
Yeah.
like what is going on, what is like popping, right?
Mhm.
And I be getting overwhelmed now. I think it's like an age thing. I like listen to like less new music.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I still go back to like a lot of things. Like, but what does your music consumption like look like?
Bro, dude, honestly, like I used to be a huge like hip hop kind of guy. Now I'm just like honestly I listen to mostly EDM because I get so tired of music now because I hear so much music, and like I'll like Drake's new album, all this stuff, like I'll bang it for like a good week,
Mhm.
and I'll just kind of get tired of it. Just because I listen to so much music, and like EDM's the only music I don't ever hear at my events or online and stuff like that. So personally, I like to consume a lot of EDM, but like outside of that, like I listen to so much all this other music at my events that I just kind of like try to like detox myself from music.
Are you like taking in music in the sense of like, hey, I'm here to like enjoy the music, right? Or are you also listening to it from like a professional, like, hey, oh, like this would go fire with this? Like, how are you like kind of like looking into that?
Yeah, dude, great question. I've been on like multiple journeys where initially I would start as like, okay, like what can I make a mix out of, right? Because I was like kind of new, and I was like, I need content.
Yeah.
And then that was not not good for your mental health. And so then I would transition to, let me just listen to it for personal use. But then because I hear so much music every day, personally, I stopped enjoying a lot of music.
Mhm.
And so now I'm at a point where like I'll listen to songs and I'll enjoy it. And then like I've just been doing this for so long that I'll kind of know, this song can be fire with this song. But I won't force it. And then it's just like in the back of my head at all times, like, this might be a good mix, or is this gonna be a good song to play at events? But it's like I'm trying to separate my personal life from a DJ life.
Yeah.
So I'm just like inside my own head, like figure that out.
Yo, I have a question, and you can feel free to dodge it, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Do you like when you look at like your career currently, right, and where you're at? What do you look at as like your differentiator
Okay.
from other DJs? Because like, bro, like I know DJs are like a dime a dozen, right? There's
Yeah.
like so many, right? Like everybody I went to high school with is a DJ, right?
Yeah.
But like, what do you think makes DJ.Amsal DJ.Amsal?
Damn. I think I personally believe that I have a good ability to kind of read people's music taste.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, if I DJ an event, like a lot of people just kind of play a playlist. Like I'm always observing. Like I'm a pretty observant guy. I'm always reading people. So it's like it doesn't come down to like what my music is. It's me knowing how to play music for you. So that was kind of awkwardly worded. But
No. I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad you have that level of like awareness about your craft and your talent in your craft. Is that I think that is exactly what it is, right? Like, because I'm like listening to things, and I'm like, again, like not the hugest fan of like Bollywood music, right?
Mhm.
But I'm hearing like your mixes, and I'm all like, oh, this shit is like fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Right. And like that is I think like the more tangible way to kind of like talk about like what is that edge, right?
Mhm.
It's a level of EQ for sure, right? But it's also an insane ear, right? Like I think like a lot of us like are able to, maybe not a lot of us, right? But some of us are able to like listen to a song before it's a hit and be like, oh, that's a hit,
Mhm.
right? Or like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm listening to this deep cut in an album. Nobody knows it's not the single,
Yeah.
but this is going to be the one that goes, right? And I think like you kind of have that in the sense of like when it comes to like mixes, right? Because every single person, if I go on their every DJ I go on their TikTok has a mix,
Yeah.
right? But they're not DJ
Yeah.
Amsal's mixes, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't hit like that. And do you think that that's something that like you developed, or do you think that's just like talent?
Developed 100%. Dude, it's funny. I didn't even listen to music until like probably high school.
Okay.
Like in my life, like I never listened to music. And then even in high school, like I barely listened. And then once I started getting into music, like first started DJing, like it was a huge curve. Because I've never played an instrument, never been musically gifted at all. I just YouTubed everything.
Mhm.
So for live DJing, I YouTubed for like 2 years, figured out how to live DJ. And then for mixes, like I just got help from a lot of people. And like till this day, I still don't know. Like there's so many people that are out there that are like very like like logical and like that with their music.
Mhm.
I think what I do is like I don't care about that stuff. Like I mean, yeah, there's basics like having songs in keys and BPMs and stuff.
Yeah.
But then other people are very like this has to go with this and that. Like I just kind of feel it out. But it took a long time to get here. Like I was definitely not like this before. I'd make like way worse mixes. I did not have that ear. And then I think over time, like once you become confident in yourself, and once you get like like or like once you see people actually enjoying your music, and you become like more relaxed and stuff, you can give in to the music more and figure out who you are in the music. And like I think that's what happened, and it definitely took a long time and developed. But I finally found it over the years, kind of thing.
I think that's like cool to hear, because I think like a lot of us like look at anybody who hits like whatever you want to call it, like TikTok fame, right? And look, oh, like it's like an overnight success, right?
Yeah.
And then people don't realize like there's nothing overnight about any of this, right? Like the product has always been there, and the product has always been fire, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't just like one day make a mix, have it blow up, and then learn it after, right? Like that would have been super difficult, right? Like, I got a hit. Now I need to learn how to DJ. No, you learned how to DJ, you mastered it, got the hit, and then was like, okay, like I could just go do this again because I've been doing this for the last like 5, 7, 8 years when nobody was listening and nobody paid attention and nobody gave a fuck, right?
Yeah.
And now people look at it as like, oh, like all the mixes are fire. How did he get so good so quickly? He didn't, right? Like you put in the work, right? He put in the time.
Appreciate that.
No, of course, bro. Like I think it's like I look at like you, Kahani, like people who are just like at the top of what they do with so much like admiration, because I'm all like, I know the hours that it takes. Like nobody is that gifted, right? Where they're just like waking up one day and they're just like the bee's knees. They're just like fire out the gate, right? Like there's very few anomalies. Like Michael Jackson always had a voice, right? Like you couldn't take that voice away. But for the rest of us, we had to like get better at whatever it is that we were trying to do, right? And I think that like to see like you guys like rip up a stage, it's like one of the purest versions of that, right? Because you're like, oh, this person like mastered this to do this, right? Because like, and I'm sure that talk about that experience, right? Like performing at like almost like an actual like rave set, and how that differs from playing at like obviously like a wedding or like doing a mix, right? How was like that first experience on like Electric Desi? Like how did you feel?
Dude, yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking because I've been doing weddings for a while. But so the main difference between weddings and like actual like club events I do are like pretty much weddings, like you're playing for the client, right? Like a bride and groom are hiring me and I have to play music that they want to hear. Now I have this event that I'm throwing that like it's my music and people are here for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whoa, like this is like all on me now. And so it was really refreshing going from like playing music for other people to playing music for myself. And it was scary because like I don't play music for myself. I play music for other people all the time. And this time, I mean, this was obviously music for them and me. So I just kind of did me, and over the years, like the talent I've built for myself and the confidence I have in myself to play music that other people like to hear and I also like. It just kind of flowed out in Electric Desi, and hopefully I've heard good feedback from my set, but hopefully everybody had a good time.
No, dude. Like people like loved your set. I think like people were like, I heard like really, really good things. And this is gonna sound like a silly question because I feel like the answer is like obvious, right? Like you love this, right?
Yeah. All right. So I love it, but there is definitely times where I don't love it.
Talk about that, because I'm looking at you right now, like meeting you for the first time, right? And then I'm like thinking about like the video I saw of you on stage, right? And how like absolutely euphoric you look, right? Like I don't know if that's like acting, like I don't, nobody's that good of an actor, right? But how euphoric you like look, right? And I'm like, oh, he like really, because he's not just like this personality that's just like out there, right? You like really love this shit, right? Like, but talk about it. Why do you hate it at times?
Yeah, or for example, like that, I was like in love, right? Like, Like, so this comes back to like me saying playing music for other people, for myself, like me doing my own thing. Like I love that. Like I'm finally doing what I wanted to do. But doing weddings for like 3 years and then doing mixes and all this stuff, like I still love doing it. But there's times where I'm like, oh, it's the same thing again, you know? And that's going back to like building on top of like what you already have, and like how can you expand and how can you change things up? Because you're not like, life isn't meant to just do the same thing all the time. You know, you got to break out your comfort zone, do things you want to do. And like sometimes with weddings, it's like the same, like it's the same set every weekend. You know, people want to hear the same music. And then for mixes, it's like sometimes I don't even want to make a mix, but I'm like, oh, like the people that want to hear my mixes are like waiting for me to post, and like I care about them and I want them to be happy. So it's like there's certain weeks where I'm like, I really want to do it, and there's certain weeks where I'm like, I kind of don't want to do it, but I don't want to disappoint my audience. So
it's funny because like that personality trait though, right, is probably what makes a great DJ, right? Is that you get bored of the thing before the audience gets bored of the thing. Right? Like if think about it, right? Like that's essentially what a DJ is doing, right? Because I hate it when I'm out anywhere and I'm over the song before the DJ cuts it, right? Like I want to be constantly, like maybe it's the ADHD in me. Like I want to be constantly entertained. But I think what you're describing as like a feeling for hating it, I don't think it's that you hate like DJing, right? Like I think it's like, hey, I want to go do the next thing, right? Because that's what really makes like the people who like last a very long time, they have to continuously evolve and change, right? Because if you just stagnate at wherever, like, hey, I'm just happy doing weddings, then that's the step that you are going to get stuck on, right? Like, hey, I'm cool doing this and I'm happy doing this, right? Or hey, I'm cool with this product and I'm just happy with this product. Like that's cool. You should be content with your product or content with where you are. But the people who progress that further are the people who are like, oh no, like there's like, listen, am I content with it? Yeah. But is there a little bit of, I don't love it? You have to, otherwise you would just stay there. Because as soon as you love something, absolutely, you're just staying there, right? But I think that's a good thing to have though, because like you're thugging it out, right? Like, and I think that creates like a level of like mental like fortitude which is what it's going to take to move whatever you're trying to do like forward. Right. Do you consider yourself like tactical? Like, do you consider yourself like strategic in that sense? Like when it comes to like the business and like Electric Desi, like are you looking at things and being like, oh, I'm like, is it a conscious effort of what you're trying to build out?
It's getting there now. I'm I'm a very like not like tactical person. Like I'm a very live day by day kind of guy. Like, oh, what do I do now? Like for Electric Desi, like, oh, let me just like, you know how some people they'll build out the whole month. Like I'm gonna post on this day. I'm gonna market this day. Like you have a whole plan, right? I don't have any of that, which is bad. All these business people, they're all gonna be coming at me right now. I don't have a timeline. I just kind of like feel it out, go with my gut kind of thing. And as businesses grow, obviously you gotta be business minded. But honestly, like I've never really had the biggest business mindset. I just do things that I want to do, and it kind of just works out, and I'll still be businessy about it. But yeah, going to what you said, I'm not like that tactical.
I think that's like a misconception that we have, right? Is that like, because I think it gets like a negative connotation, right? Because I think like most elite business runners, they aren't the most like, oh, second by second, like formulaic, like output, right? Because if it was that formulaic, everybody could just replicate it, right? It really does come down to what feels authentic or what feels good to you, right? Like there's so many like I get this question a lot randomly, like how do I decide like guests, right? Because like I've gotten like people who request to be on, right? And I'm all like, I don't know, like there's no real, like I'm not looking at a follower count, I'm not looking at any of that, right? Like when we look at guests, like it really kind of is just a feeling. Like it because to me, I have to feel okay with like, hey, this is the product that's going out because it's a reflection of me, right? Like when you say like, hey, I'm doing the music that is a reflection of me, right? It's not like what somebody on a playlist said, hey, you have to go play this. It's, hey, this is my product. Like Electric Desi is my product, and this is my expression on that product, right? Because I think that is like one of the most valuable things, right? Because you never want to transform your quote unquote, like not quote unquote, your business into just that, a business, right? Like you want it to be like, hey, this is like authentic to me. Because if you have to transform your business into something you're not to make it succeed, then was it really even worth like going to do?
Deep. That was deep.
It's, I think it's like something that you probably should or are thinking about, maybe not as conscientiously, right? That like, hey, like you have this thing now, right? You're going on round 2 of this, and you're like, I know, like just based off of talking to you, you're not like done here, right? Like you're gonna go do it again, and then go do it again, right? Like that's like me and you talked about the goal, right? Like you're gonna go do it again. So like I'm sure that you don't think that you have like those thoughts of like, hey, like what does this look like in a year, or what does this look like in 6 months?
So I do now. So
okay,
like, I started off just like I'm just gonna do it for fun, and then as like for example, my first event, I was like, I'm gonna just do this, and then I'm gonna just throw more depending on how this goes. And after my first event like sold out and did really good, then I'm like, damn, I want to do more. And then dang, I can throw a festival, you know, like a just under wraps. I might be throwing a festival next year, so look out for that. So like stuff like that. Like that's how I'm thinking about now. Like, okay, I threw a rave. Now can I throw a festival with multiple stages? Can I have multiple DJs? Like stuff like that, right? So this now I'm like thinking about the expansion. But I didn't have that until my first event.
Yo, I think that this is something like I'm glad to hear you say that, right? Because like I think that is like I think where the future of this is going. Like that kind of coincides with like even my vision on like the space, right? But I think like some of the background work that kind of needs to get done is that we need a couple more of you, Amsal.
No.
Like we need a couple more of you in the sense of like we need a couple more guys who are like really getting to their craft, and like I'm sure they're out there, right?
Yeah.
But like they got to keep building too, right? Because like for a festival to be a thing, like I can't go, like honestly, I'm 100% transparency, and I will check the rest of y'all out, is that when I go to Electric Desi, the only one I'm really gonna know is Amsal, right? And like, yo, that's fly, because I'm, you know what I mean, I'm gonna go see Amsal, right? But I also wanna, if I'm gonna go to a whole festival, bro, I wanna know Amsal, I wanna know the next 5 DJs on the lineup, right? Like it's cool that I know Amsal at the top of the headliner list, but I want to know like at least a couple more on there, right? So that I can be like, hey, I am going to go to this festival, not just to see Amsal on the one stage for a couple hours. I'm going to enjoy the entire set. Do you look at your peers? Is there like a relationship there? Is there people that are, I'm sure there's DJs that are like looking out to you like, yo, like how did you do this?
Yeah. Like how did I get here kind of thing?
Yeah, like are you like having those conversations with like other DJs, right?
Yeah. So I kind of feel bad about this. Like definitely I've had a lot of conversations, right? Like help people out. But then like there's a certain point, like I get so many messages, so many I can reply to. And so like whoever I can help out, I tell. But honestly, like the simple answer is like you just keep going. And this is coming back to what we talked about earlier. Like people give up, right? Like you won't get the numbers you want. And then you'll get numbers and it'll die down, or like you'll get bored of it. And like I went through all of that, but I just kept going. And so like people reach out and literally like I don't want to like get deep into it because they'll be like, oh, I'm doing this and that. I'm like, I don't really like have the time to like know everything you're doing. All I'm gonna say is just keep going, and like if you just believe in yourself, you will get there. And you just have to believe and keep going. That's all it is.
I think that's something that like we hate to admit, that there's something, because I think like when you hear like people give those like, not, I don't want to call them excuses, but reasons, excuses, they give those as like reasons for like, oh, like I did everything that you did, right?
Yeah.
I should already be there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you have to take an honest look at your work and what you've really done to see, like, because you should actually be looking for like, what else is it that I can do, right? Like, is some of it up to like fate, luck, and the algorithm? Yes. But you want to be making sure that you are giving yourself the most maximum probability to succeed. And how do you do that? You keep going.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to give yourself the maximum probability to succeed. You have to continuously look at your project and is it good? Russ had a tweet. He had a tweet where it's like, yo, some of y'all expect y'all to be like Drake, right? But your guys' music still sucks. Right? Where it's like not where it needs to be yet.
Yeah.
Right? And a bunch of people replied like, bro, listen to my music. Like if I was Drake, right? Like I would have gotten this hit. And then he's like, bro, like you think that because that's like your music and your discipline, right?
Yeah.
But the market has to also believe that, hey, this is a hit, right? Like it would be cool as hell, like if you just put out music for you, and you are doing that, right?
Yeah.
But if everybody else was like, yeah, sure, whatever, who cares?
Exactly.
Right? Like, but you are putting out product that like the market is validating because they're continuously coming back and going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Right? Who are, out of curiosity, it doesn't have to be like South Asian DJs, but like who are some of like the DJs that you look at and you're like, oh, like this person's like objectively like, yo, this person's fire.
Yeah. They're all pretty much EDM DJs.
Okay.
But literally, like the reason I got into DJing, it was like high school. I saw this YouTube video of Calvin Harris just like performing at a festival, and I was like, that looks cool. Let me just try it, you know. But now it's like have you heard of RL Grime?
Yes.
Yeah, RL Grime, Illenium. Like those are like my top favorite artists.
Yeah.
So I'll go to their events and be like, dude, this is sick. Like, and then like certain like honestly, like I'll go to some clubs and like hear this DJ like mixing it up. I'm like, dude, this dude's killing it, you know. So like it depends on like if you're looking at like from a DJ's technical skill standpoint or just from your own musical personal taste standpoint. So
it's definitely a bit of both, right? Because like you can objectively look at like I like my friends who are like a lot more into like EDM.
Yeah,
I'm sure y'all can tell if like a DJ is like really good, right? But for me as like a consumer, I just think like I don't know what everybody's in the EDM's opinion is on Martin Garrix, but I think Martin Garrix is fire.
Sick.
Like I think he's like fucking like we went to go see him at Mirage, right? And I was like, holy fucking shit, right? It's actually crazy to think how huge EDM is. Like I think like I came from hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Like in the sense of like that's where my interest was, and to see how big and international it truly is insane. Like I've never been to one and been like, wow, everyone here kind of like look the same. It is like always the most diverse crowd ever, right? And now the coolest thing is the crowd that I would say probably doesn't go as much would be South Asians, but now
we here, man.
Y'all
expand people's minds out here.
Y'all doing it. Do you hear that from people? Like, hey, like I didn't like really listen to like EDM, right? And then like I saw a mix or heard a mix. Do you feel like that's like a changing thing in our culture?
So I'm a firm believer that everybody's always liked EDM. Like when you date yourself back to like middle school and high school, like or high school, college, whatever, like you've listened to so much music like Calvin Harris, Marshmello. These have been EDM Chainsmokers. Like they were the biggest EDM. Like they performed at only raves, right? And then all of a sudden they became mainstream. If you like their music, you've liked EDM.
Yeah.
So it's like you just now people are putting a name to it, and like now there's more genres of EDM that you're expanding yourself to for sure. But it's like everybody's always kind of liked a certain genre of EDM. They just didn't know it was EDM. So I think now people are actually putting attention on it and being like, oh dang, this is called EDM, you know?
What would you describe? And I'm curious. Like I was gonna ask you this. Whenever I get Kahani, I'll ask him this. What would you call like the industry or like the genre that you guys are like creating? Because it is like its own unique genre, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what you would call it, but like how are you like categorizing it or looking at it?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't like. I'm just saying that mine's like Electric Desi, just electronic music, EDM music mixed with Desi music. I don't really have any specific label just because I play so many different types of EDM.
Yeah.
That I feel like I can't really bundle it up into one. It's just EDM combined with Desi music. And then Kahani's is like pretty. I don't know his thing. I know he does a lot of house and techno music.
Yeah.
So I think his is kind of like that too. But I feel like there's no word to kind of.
It kind of is the word Electric Desi. It's like good branding.
Yeah.
It really is good branding, right?
Hey,
like you gotta just run with that, bro. At this point, right? Like it's good branding, right? Do you like when you think about like, hey, like best sets, right?
Mhm.
Like, do you have a best set? Like not your own, like a person, like, hey, like this was like an insane set that I saw, or was that?
Yeah, it just ties back to like EDM events I've been to again.
Yeah. So no, I'm saying like whose would yours be?
Ooh. All right, so I'm actually I love like hard music like dubstep and stuff.
Yeah.
This is no one really would think this, but there's this one DJ called Excision.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah, we know it.
Oh, okay. I never know if people know.
No. We know who Excision is.
Yeah, like I like to go crazy, so I saw him and that was like one of my favorite sets like ever. And then Elenium is my favorite DJ, so his set was obviously amazing. But like I love to get rowdy. I love to like jump and like the mosh pit and stuff.
You're one of those, right?
Yeah. I get crazy.
That's crazy because like if I like just like based off of like the small brief interactions we're having, right? I'm just like, yo, this is nice, chill, calm, right? Like very zenned out. Like
it's funny because I'll go to an Elenium concert and I'll just stand there and just take in all the beauty. I'll go to an Excision concert and start pushing people.
Start pushing mosh and I that was like one of the I was like, yo, I gotta find like EDM music that like speaks to me because like I think to your point, right? Like we are all technically EDM fans because by pure virtue of what it is, EDM music is just music, right? Like everything is electronic based basically now, right? We're not really getting live instrumentation on things, right? We're basically getting all EDM music, right? And I think to your point about like the genres, right? You realize like how much like even within EDM, like how many genres there are, right? Like there is a very specific subsection of EDM that is like purely for somebody like me, right? Who like, yo, I do enjoy, like I love hip hop, right? So anytime I hear a Boiler Room set where they're like flipping like SZA or flipping Drake, right? I'm all like, oh no, this is it, right? Like Sarah Landry has like a crazy mix right now out with Paper Planes by MIA, right? Yeah. And I think it's like one of the hardest mixes I've ever heard. And I'm just like, oh no. See, like there is something for me. Because like I feel like when I looked at EDM, I used to always think about like Seven Lions, right? Elenium, and like, yo, super cool, right? But like it's not for everybody. Not for me, right? But then when I like did discover like your Excisions, your Grimes, right? Your Garrisons, I'm all like, oh, no. I don't hate EDM, right? I just had to find the one that was good for me.
And it's funny you say that because I feel like that's how a lot of people think, right? And that's what I'm kind of doing with Electric Desi. Like, some people are like, oh, EDM, like, I don't really like it. And then they come to my event, they're like, I just had the best night of my life. You just heard only EDM music. All I did was put like Desi vocals on top.
And yo, I actually had this argument with a friend of mine, right? Where he was like, yo, because me and him were like arguing about what is the cap to this, whatever we want to call this genre. Let's just call it Electric Desi for branding purposes, right? What is the cap of this, right? And he was just like, listen, there's only a few South Asian people that are really even into like EDM music, right? Like there is a cap because you're already of a subsection, you're creating a smaller subsection. But I'm like, no. That's a mistake on how you're looking at that because you're looking at it as what is the current audience of this very specific niche, right? Yeah. But you're not factoring in the fact that like, yo, these people, these mixes are converting people into that fan base, right? Because like we're already a little bit older, so our music tastes are kind of set, right? But like you putting out like the mixes that you're putting out, you putting out like the viral mixes that you're putting out, you're shaping another generation's music palette a little bit, right? You're like, oh, I'm used to hearing Desi vocals over an EDM beat, right? Not only am I used to hearing it, I want to hear more of it, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how this thing has to go, right? Like you have to accept like, okay, like this is different. Okay. But now it's palatable because it's fire. And now it's like, oh, I want more of this, right? And I think we're seeing that too. Like I see so many more South Asian DJs putting out like mixes, right? Yeah. Where we were talking about it off camera, right? The Burna Boy and then the 914 Punjabi remix, right? Like that is a TikTok viral clip now, right? And it's to our even earlier point, it's crossing over just South Asians, right? Now it's crossing over to the entire lexicon of music, right? Which is, I think, like, that's the more exciting thing about like talking to you guys and seeing you do what you do. I'm like, yo, y'all are so fire that like other people that aren't South Asian are gonna look at it and be like, oh, this is fire.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's super exciting to me because I'm like, yo, y'all are putting out fire product. Right. Like if it's not just like cool to brown people, right?
Yeah.
It's like cool. Right. I hope y'all look at that too, right? Like where you don't feel pigeonholed into like, yo, this is just my market.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, yo, I really encourage you, right? Like just because I have you in front, this is what I be doing. I be preaching to my guests. This is why I really bring them on, right? Is I hope that you look at it as like, yo, I don't want to make just like fire South Asian music. Like, yo, that's gonna be you anyway, right? Like this is a part of your identity.
Yeah.
Right. But I want you to be like, yo, I'm gonna make music that's fire.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Like
what I mostly go for is I want people to feel a certain way. Like I'll make fire music, but I'm making it because I want you to just have one of the best days of your life, or I want you to experience euphoria. I want you to experience happiness. So it's like I think who I am is I'm someone that makes like good music because I want you to experience the best feeling you could possibly experience.
Do you have that feeling before you put something out? Like, are you able to hear something and be like, oh, this is about to be a hit?
Yeah, low key. Okay. There has been some times where I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a hit, and then it flops.
Okay.
But then there's certain mixes I'm like, I know it's gonna be like a banger.
Yeah.
And then it does come back to like where you said like sometimes there's the algorithm, sometimes it's fate. Whatever, if the algorithm doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. But I know like there's certain mixes I'm like, I know this one's about to be crazy.
No, I think as you do anything or as you work on your craft more, right, you start to really realize like when you have a hit.
Yeah.
Right. I do some podcasts and I'm just like, oh, I know that this is about to get a reaction. Right.
Yeah.
And like I think that's like one of the more fire feelings to have is that like, yo, I built this, I put it out, and it's fire before I put it out. Right. Like, talk to me. Do you have anything like in the works or in the tuck that you're just like waiting to put out?
Ooh. Mixes wise, like not really. I just kind of make it on the daily.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your turnaround time like on those?
Dude, I'll wake up and be like, oh, I feel like mixing what Jumka today. I'll make it in 30 minutes and then just post it like the next day.
Really?
Yeah. Like I'll make it 30 minutes and I'll record it in like my set and my studio and stuff. Which will take another 30 minutes, like an hour tops, for making a mix and producing it, and then I'll post it the next day.
So when you say like, "Hey, I'm doing this on the fly," you really mean, "Yo, I'm doing this on the fly."
I'll wake up and be like, "I'm gonna make a mix with Batamizo today," or I'm gonna make if there's a trending song, I'll be like, "I'm gonna make a mix with this and see what's popping on it."
Yo, that is so crazy to me that like you're able to like output it that like you really do be like one take hoping this, right? Like, yo, that's insane. In terms of like, yo, like your vision for like yourself in terms of like music, like do you see yourself like producing like or anything like that in the future?
Dude, so I really like that was my dream is to play like on like main stage EDC or stuff like that. And like the only way to really get there is to produce your own music. So I don't know if it's like on me that I'm not patient enough or like I hate the process of making music, but I know what I want my end goal to be. So like I have the vision of what song I want to make, but then sitting there learning how to make everything like for hours on end, like you have to be there 4 or 5 hours in a chair making music. I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because I don't know how to do it and I'm not giving myself the time to do it and I'm just impatient, or if it's like I just actually don't like producing. So it's like I want to DJ for a wide audience on the stage, but I don't want to do the work to get there.
Got you. Yo, I kind of can one of my producers, can y'all do the back and forth thingy real quick? Thank you. So Amsal, I do this thing and I'm just gonna explain it because like when I talk about it, people have no idea what I talk about. So I believe in this thing called calling your shot, right? So calling your shot to me is something like manifesting, right? Like not manifesting, but it's like because I've said things in my like life where I've like said it and it didn't happen on the timeline that I wanted, but it did happen, right? So I'm gonna ask you in this, like, whatever time frame you feel comfortable with, whatever you feel like putting out, right? DJ.Amsal, call your shot.
Damn. Of like when
something you want to do next 3, 5, whatever years, right? Something that you're like, yo, I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm gonna say in the next 2 years, I will host a successful festival, and I will put at least a couple thousand people. Like in
couple thousand?
Yeah, I'm calling right now.
A festival and a couple thousand.
Yeah, maybe hopefully more, but I'm gonna throw a festival because that's just something I want to do now, and I will pull in a couple thousand people.
Amazing. Yo, I really appreciate you doing this, dog.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Man.
No, absolutely. This was fun. And yo, next time after, I'm definitely gonna go to Electric Desi. I think we already have our tickets.
Hey.
But next time I want you back on for the next one.
Okay, bet. I'm down, man.
You know, like I want to hear how this one goes for you, right? And I really want y'all to keep doing this bigger and bigger. Like it excites the fuck out of me hearing like, yo, I'm gonna do a festival in 2 years, right? Because like that's the shit that I want to see. Like, I don't want to wait 5 years for, right? Like I want y'all to like put the pedal to the gas, right, and like really go at this, right? Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.